What's up, y'all? What's good with you? Welcome back to Vibrant Works. To all my fellow explorers of the vibrant mind. And of course, today we're going to be dropping some new knowledge on you. And it's something that's very important that we all deal with as human beings, you know what I'm saying? So just pay attention to the lesson and hopefully you find something in it that you can apply right here, right now in your life. Have you ever just went through life and dealt with temptation? Really, that's a rhetorical question because I know we have. Have you ever felt like weak to it though? Like, I feel weak to this temptation. If you ever said those words to yourself, maybe you was standing in front of the fridge at night knowing you shouldn't be getting that midnight snack, or scrolling through your ex's Instagram feed, something like that, or walking past that store window shopping knowing you can't afford this stuff in there and you don't got the budget for it, but you going there anyways. Then this is the lesson, this is the video for you, because these are real things we actually deal with. And my goal is just to make you aware of the science and the spiritual presence behind the things that affect our behaviors. So once again, what's up to all my fellow explorers of the vibrant mind? My name is Justin Fields. I'm your behavioral coach, and I'm here to help you ground that spiritual wisdom into your everyday behavior. All right. Now I'm going to tell you something that might blow your mind a little bit. You ain't weak. You ain't weak. Nah, not you're not weak. No, you ain't weak. You never were weak. You will never be weak. What you've been calling temptation ain't some external force trying to drag you down into hell, y'all. No. Stop giving it that much authority in your life. It's actually your own subconscious beliefs calling the shots from behind the scenes. And today we're about to pull you back and pull back that curtain so that I can show you exactly how to take your power back and you can be the driver of your life and not the passenger. Okay? So, y'all know, I see it here and there. I grew up in a small town in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, you know what I'm saying? And down in the South, you know, our grannies used to get very biblical with us and stuff, you know what I'm saying? That church talk. And they'd be like something like this, like, baby, the devil ain't got no power over you if you don't give him the power yourself. Y'all ever heard something like that? And Lord knows that women were spitting hot fire, but it was actually science and spiritual wisdom behind it. We've been giving our power away because we just don't understand these things. It's not that you're weak. You just have a lack of understanding. Another word for that is ignorance. Not in a negative sense. We're just very ignorant of how these things work. So that's what I'm here to help you with today. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to break down some real science behind temptation. Not just the spiritual stuff, which I really love to do. Though we'll get to that part too. We're talking neuroscience, behavioral psychology, which is my field, even some ancient occult knowledge. Occult just means hidden knowledge, y'all. And I'll combine all of these essences, all these perspectives to show you how temptation is really simply at its core just a belief system running in the background of your mind, y'all. By the time we done here today, you're going to understand that every time you feel tempted, what you're really feeling is your own unconscious programming trying to get you to act on beliefs that you didn't even know you had in the first place. And once you know how to change those beliefs, it's game over. Flip, 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 game over. Then temptation loses all its power, y'all. So if you tired of feeling like you're fighting yourself or pulling yourself or scratching yourself, knuckling up with yourself because you feel weak to temptation, if you're ready to stop doing that in life, stay with me. We about to get you to the place you need to be, a place of understanding so you can have an opportunity to apply these things, y'all. Feel me? Now I gotta get my water break, you know what I'm saying? Let me check this out right quick. Let me check this out. All right. Hey, man, that sparkling water been the truth lately, so this is a nice little brand, you know what I'm saying? I'll put that right there, you know what I'm saying? Try that out, you know what I'm saying? My wife don't like the stuff, but I do. All right, so Let's talk about the neuroscience of desire and what's really happening in our brains, y'all. When we're in the middle of feeling tempted, what's happening physically to us? All right, so let's start with some real talk about what's happening with the temptation in our brain. Most folks think temptation is simply about willpower. Nah, like you got a strong will or a weak will, and that determines whether you give in to temptation or not. See, that already misses the boat. If you're feeling tempted in the first place, that's what we're discussing. We're talking about the temptation in the first place, not what you do with your willpower after you're tempted, but how do we understand temptation in its essence so we can be aware of it and acknowledge it and be prepared to respond in a way we choose that doesn't feel so powerful to go against, so much resistance to go against. But it ain't about willpower, y'all. That ain't really how your brain works. So we're gonna talk about Miss Dr. Anna Rose Childress. Okay, go look it up. At the University of Pennsylvania, did some groundbreaking research. Right, she was using brain scans on people dealing with addiction. Okay, what she found was that the craving response happens in the limbic system. The temptation response happens in the limbic system, y'all. That's your emotional brain. It's an emotion. At about 200 milliseconds before your conscious mind even know that it's happening. So you mean I'm being tempted before I'm even aware that I'm being tempted? What? That's what's going on. That's what we're dealing with, y'all. But we're gonna figure this thing out together, all right? Think about that for a second, though. Your brain is already firing up the I want this or that right before you even become aware of it consciously, y'all. It's like your subconscious mind is a security guard at the club. Like, nah, I gotta check who's getting in here. You ain't on the list to get through here. And that security guard and that subconscious mind has been programmed to let certain things through the gate without even checking management upstairs. Management upstairs is your conscious mind. So your subconscious mind doing all the work. Like, nope, can't go through. Oh, you can go through. Without being like, hey, boss, is this cool that I'm doing this? Understand? But here's where it gets really interesting, y'all. And this is where behavioral psychology comes in. We're going to talk about the behavior side of this. B.F. Skinner, the godfather of applied behavior analysis, if you don't know by now, showed us that all behavior is driven by what is called an operant conditioning. So that's just a fancy word, a fancy way of saying we do things based on what we expect to get out of them. Okay? So when you feel tempted by something, your brain isn't just randomly firing off. No, it's accessing a whole database of beliefs about what that thing is that you're gonna do or get out of this for you. It's a belief about what that thing is gonna do for you. Okay? Maybe you believe that donut is actually gonna make you feel better when you eat that thing. No, you ain't supposed to be eating that thing, but you're gonna eat it because it's gonna make you feel better. Maybe you believe that the person is gonna feel that loneliness inside of you. That's why you keeping them around in your life. Maybe you believe that you have to make that purchase in order to feel like you're a successful person. But understand what I just said, y'all. The key word in all of those examples is believe. Because here's the thing. Those beliefs might be completely and utterly wrong, but your brain don't care because they don't operate like that. It's operating off the programming it's been given. It's been trained on. Okay? Once you do something over and over and over, that's all your subconscious mind know. Okay, I got to keep doing this. I have to keep doing this. Boss man upstairs, boss lady upstairs said, this is good for us, so I'm going to do my part. Okay? So, we're going to talk about some more science. We're going to pull some more science up for y'all. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research on epigenetics show us that about 95% of our daily behaviors is controlled by our subconscious programming, y'all. That means most of the time, you ain't even driving. Your car. Your subconscious beliefs are. Most of the time, we ain't walking around here conscious. We just operating straight on subconscious. It takes a certain level of awareness and energy and focus to always be conscious. So if we're not being conscious, what's happening? We're operating on subconscious beliefs. Now in the occult tradition, and I'm talking about real deal occult knowledge, y'all, okay? Not that Hollywood stuff y'all see on TV. Not none of that nonsense. Practitioners understand something called the law of correspondence. Okay? As above, so below. And if you really tap into consciousness and how it works, you'll hear that a lot. As above, so below. Or spirituality, or whatever you call it for yourself. But what's happening in your inner world creates what's going to show up in your outer world, or what we call in the outer world reality, your reality. What's happening in here, all up in here, is what's coming out. All we see with all that's going on in the world is all we're dealing with is what's happening in here with people. Whether that's presidents, whether that's the local dude at your grocery store, whether that's the druggie, whether that's your parents, all we're experiencing is expressions, projections of what's going on in here and here, y'all. That's what makes up our outer reality. It comes from inner reality. Okay? When you understand this, you realize that temptation isn't coming at you from an outside force. It's coming from you, from inside. It's your own inner beliefs projecting outward and then magnetizing back to you, reflecting back to you. You believe this thing has a benefit to you. That's the only reason you're tempted by it. It is an operant conditioning in behavioral psychology, y'all. You're expecting to get something out of it is why you're tempted. It brings some level of satisfaction to you to even be tempted by this thing in the first place. And once you understand that, then you can start really getting into the root work where you don't have to deal with temptation. You gotta deal with temptation. If it's something that you find that you're tempted by that you would prefer not to be tempted by, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm going to help you with. You know what I'm saying? So think about it like this. You know you have to fill up that gas tank. You know this. You know what I'm saying? But when you're trying to fill up the gas tank, let's say, let me back up. Let me use another analogy. My brain just went into a different place. That's cool. We human. You know how when you're thinking about buying a car, for instance, and I want a Mustang. I ain't gonna cap. I want me a nice Mustang. And suddenly you start seeing that car everywhere. I see Mustangs everywhere. Everywhere. At first I wasn't looking for them, but now I'm looking for them. But what's happening on a psychological level? They were always there in the first place. But your brain wasn't programmed subconsciously to notice them until you developed an interest in them. That's exactly what's happening with temptation, y'all. Your subconscious beliefs are like search filters, okay? Highlighting everything in your environment, everything that matches what you believe you want or need. So, therefore, again, it's coming from you. You feel like you want this thing subconsciously or need this thing subconsciously. Your brain is actually believing we need this thing. So we're going to be tempted by this thing. And if it comes in our field of view, we're going to have a physiological response in our body. Our nervous system is going to kick in. Okay? So we're going to talk about some root work here in your root belief systems and where temptation really comes from on a root level. Now, we're getting into the heart of the matter, you know what I'm saying, at hand, which is temptation. Let's talk about these root beliefs that are creating all this magnetic pull towards things you know ain't good for you. It's not aligned with what you need in life right now, but you're pulling them anyways. In cognitive behavior therapy, we have this concept called core beliefs. And if you watch the movie Inside Out, or Inside Out 1 and 2, I think it's a Disney movie. Anywho, they show this core beliefs, core memories. These are the deep, often unconscious assumptions that you have about yourself, other people, and the world. They're like the operating system running in the background of your mind. Okay? Here's an example. If you have a core belief that says, I'm not worthy of love unless I'm perfect, then every time you make a simple mistake, your brain is going to start looking for ways to cope with that unworthiness feeling, y'all. Maybe it reaches for food, maybe substances that aren't good for you, maybe unhealthy relationships. You're magnetizing these things, whatever your particular pattern is in your behavior and your belief system. But here's the beautiful thing that you need to be aware of, okay? This is where we start bridging into the spiritual realm. That's what I love to do, heaven to earth. My true purpose, heard this from being connected with myself and God. I'm here to help people help themselves. And when I heard that purpose, it brought tears to my eyes. So everything I'm telling you is going to help you help yourself. So start applying this in your life, y'all. So we're going to bridge that spiritual realm, heaven to earth. Okay? Those beliefs of unworthiness aren't actually true. They're optional. You can opt in or opt out at any time. They're just programs that got installed at some point in your life. Usually when you were young and your brain was most impressionable, y'all. So let's just use an example. Let's call this example or this person, hypothetical person. Let's say Shanice. Bless her heart, Miss Shanice, because I have to use you as an example. If you're a Shanice out there, shouts out to you. But Shanice, let's say Shanice struggled with shopping addiction for many, many, many years. Every time she felt stressed or sad, what did she do? She ended up at the mall spending all her money she didn't even have. She thought she had no self-control in this situation. She thought she was just weak-willed the whole time, y'all. But when we dug a little bit deeper, when we dig a little bit deeper in her beliefs, we found the real, actual issue. When she was little, her mama was working 2 jobs. A lot of us witnessed this. And hardly ever home. But when her mama did take her shopping, for instance, that was the only time Miss Shanice felt like she had her mama's full attention and love. So it made an impression on her brain. Her subconscious mind had created this belief: shopping equals love and attention. So every time she felt unloved or ignored as an adult, what her brain do? Her brain will fire up that old programming that was installed when she was younger. Go shopping is how you get love, how you feel love, how you feel something. Her subconscious mind had created this belief: shopping equals love and attention. Go shopping, and that's how I get that sensation or that feeling of love. It wasn't about them clothes or shoes or running up that credit card. It was about trying to fill that childhood wound with stuff. Okay? Are y'all getting how this works now? A little bit better at least? So, once we identify that root belief, what can we do for Miss Shanice? You know what I'm saying? As a behavior coach, what can we do? We start working to reprogram it. We can just start working to reprogram it. That compulsive shopping, once we uprooted that programming, just stops. Some people call that cold turkey. I go cold turkey on a lot of stuff after a while, but I actually think that's a cool skill to have. But when you change your belief, you change your whole magnetic pull and the things you're attracting to you. All that temptation that you were weak to instantly vanish. Okay? In Hinduism, they call this the samakras, mental impressions or habitual patterns that get carved into your consciousness through repeated experience. And the beautiful thing about this is that they can be dissolve through conscious practice and awareness. You have to become a little bit more conscious, and consciousness simply means aware. Once you become aware of what's going on with you, now you can get the help you need. You feel me? The Kabbalistic traditions teach us about tikkun, the repair or correction of the soul. Sometimes what we call temptation is actually our soul trying to heal those old wounds, but it's using the wrong medicine. The temptation is pointing us towards what we need to heal, but we're trying to heal with external things, y'all, instead of internal transformation. That's the point here. All right. In applied behavior analysis, ABA, we use something called a functional behavior assessment. We don't just look at the behavior that we're trying to change. We look at what the function is that behavior serves. What need is trying to be met? Every temptation is trying to meet some legitimate human need. That's what temptation is. It's trying to legitimately help you. The need for connection, for significance, for peace, for excitement, and for love. The problem isn't the need in itself. The need is very valid, y'all. Whatever you need is valid. Nobody can take that away from you. The problem is that your subconscious mind has learned to try to meet that need in ways that ain't working or not healthy for you. Okay? It's like trying to fill up your car with water instead of gas. What's going to happen when you do that? The need to fill up is a legitimate need, right? But you're using the wrong fuel. So what's going to happen? Your car going to break down. Not because it don't need fuel, but because water ain't going to make the engine run correctly. And it's going to be a very expensive repair. So I don't recommend it. So, because, I like to tap into a lot of different spiritual, religious systems to understand these things, we're going to talk about the Christian understanding. And this is where the Christian understanding comes in. The Bible talks about renewing your mind. That's Romans 12:2. That's not just spiritual fluff, y'all. That's literal neuroplasticity. You can actually rewire your brain by changing your thoughts and beliefs. And I'm going to bring that up over and over again in my lessons because you need to understand that. Okay? But you got to go deeper than just positive thinking. We ain't talking about positive thinking. We talk about how things work. Positive thinking is great. But it's not what we talking about here. Just think everything is rose-colored glasses. No. What we got to do? We got to uproot and identify those core beliefs that are creating the magnetic pull in the first place. If you so choose to want to elevate yourself and not be a victim any longer to temptation, y'all. All right, we're going to talk about the behavioral mechanics of beliefs and how to change them. That's what this is all about. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this thing, you feel me? And how to actually change these beliefs that are creating all this temptation in your life in the first place, y'all. First thing you got to understand is that beliefs aren't just the things you're thinking in your head. They're neurological pathways, or like highways, that have been strengthened through repetition. The more you go on that highway to and from your job, then after a certain amount of time, you won't even need GPS. Because you've repeated that path so many times. Same thing. Every time you acted on a particular belief, you've made the neural pathway stronger. Like walking the same path through the woods until it becomes a clear trail. I know y'all been on the trail before. Y'all be like, oh, somebody been here before. You could clearly see the trail. At first, there was a big patch of grass. But now it's an actual walkable trail because so many people have repeated the same thing. Now there's a strong connection there. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research, go check my boy out, he hard, shows us that to change a belief, you got to do more than just think your way through it or think different thoughts. It ain't an intellectual thing we talking about here, y'all. You want to use your intellect? Sure. What we talking about is understanding for the purposes of application of the understanding, aka wisdom. Okay? You got to create new emotional experiences that contradict the old belief to actually change that belief. So don't be afraid to get different opinions and perspectives. Because beliefs aren't just an intellectual thing. They're your emotional patterns stored inside of your body, y'all. Here's a practical example. Let's say you have a belief that I need to take this, let's just say coconut oil. I need to take this coconut oil substance to just relax. I need this. Every time you've used that coconut oil and you felt a little bit more relaxed, what happened? You reinforce that neural pathway in your brain. Now your brain has real deal tangible evidence that this belief is true. So to change that belief, let's just say you be like, oh, coconut oil, I read some stuff that it ain't good for me. How do I change that temptation to use it? To change it, you got to create new evidence. You got to find other ways to relax and really pay attention to how good those other ways feel. Maybe it's through deep breathing. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's just going for a walk. I love my walks. Actually, right after this lesson, I'm gonna do my walk. Me and my dog, we love our walk. Okay? The key is to make sure you're emotionally present when you experience like relaxation without using that coconut oil in this example. Okay? So we create some contradictory there in order to uproot that belief and install a new belief. We've all in time changed something we believe that we used to believe as kids. Like Santa, for instance. Well, I would hope that y'all changed that belief by now. Maybe you didn't, no judgment, but it would be an interesting thing if you hadn't. You know what I'm saying? So, in behavioral psychology, y'all, we call this competing behaviors. You don't just eliminate the old behavior. You install a new behavior that serves the same function, but in a more aligned and healthier way for you. Okay? But here's the most pressing thing that people mess up on, y'all. Let's be aware of the things we can slip up on. We try to fight our way through this process. We try to boop, 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 boop. No, you don't gotta do all that. You don't gotta do all that, okay? We try to use willpower to fight against those old patterns instead of using awareness and application to dissolve the old beliefs that were creating that pattern in the first place. It's like this. Imagine you're in a dark room and you're afraid of all the shadows on the wall. Sometimes I get it. You see a shadow, like, hold on, bro. You could spend all your energy fighting those shadows, swinging at them, like, trying to push them away. Or what could you do? You could just turn on the light and realize they were never real to begin with. It was an opt-out, opt-in situation, like I was saying. That's what temptation is. Awareness itself is that light switch. When you become conscious of the beliefs that are creating your temptation patterns, they start to lose all of their power automatically. That's the secret. Temptation don't have power without you powering it. Once you lose that belief, you drop the whole power of temptation. The Buddhist concept of this is called mindfulness. It's really about becoming aware of your mental patterns in a safe place with yourself without judgment. And I know that can be tough for people to not judge themselves, but we're going to talk about that in another lesson. When you can just simply observe your thoughts and beliefs without getting caught up in them emotionally, you create space for new possibilities, new beliefs to enter your field and thought patterns. Okay, in the African spiritual tradition, there's this understanding that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes your thoughts. Your ancestors knew that true power comes from being able to step back just a little bit and choose which thoughts to follow and which ones to let pass by on that conveyor belt of thoughts. Okay? I'm going to give you a little technique that you can try, you know what I'm saying? If you want to. Next time you feel tempted by something, instead of fighting the feeling, knuckling up with it, stop for a second. Get curious about it. Ask yourself, What do I believe this thing is going to do for me? What emotion is it satisfying in me? What need do I need met in this moment? What am I trying to meet? What am I really hungry for? Start asking yourself these questions so you can start becoming aware, y'all. Most of the time, you'll discover that you're not actually hungry for these things in the way you were thinking. You're really hungry for a feeling of peace, excitement, love, and significance. And once you identify the real deal hunger, you can find healthier ways to feed it, y'all. Okay? So, now we're going to tap in, jump on to the next section. Hey, man, thank y'all for being here. You know what I'm saying? These lessons be fire. They be firing me up, boy. I tell you something. We're going to talk about some practical things you can do to reprogram your beliefs. Okay, let me give you a couple examples. Let's use the radio station again. I like to use this one. Your brain is like a radio, and beliefs are like the radio stations. Right now, you might be tuned into Temptation FM. That station that's always playing songs about why you need the things you're trying to avoid. Right? But here's the thing, y'all. You can change that station. You can tune into Healthy Choices FM, for instance, or Inner Peace 101.7. The key is learning how to work the dial consciously in your mind, turning that conscious dial, instead of letting your subconscious mind control what station you're listening to. What do you do when the passenger get in and touch your radio? Like, touch my radio? Do that with yourself. Like, hold on. Subconscious mind. I'm the conscious mind. Don't touch my radio. I want to tune into inner peace in this moment. Know what I'm saying? So now we're going to use another analogy. This one is about a garden. You feel me? Your mind, because your mind is like a garden. Really, your mind is a garden. And the beliefs themselves are the seeds. You've been unconsciously planting weed seeds. Beliefs that grow into temptation patterns. But you can't just pull up the weeds and leave them empty in the soil. What do you have to do? You got to plant new seeds, healthier beliefs that will grow into behaviors you actually want. And just like a garden, y'all, you got to tend to those new beliefs with daily attention and care. Okay? And since we're talking about temptation and how temptation feels like a magnetic pull, I'm going to give you one more analogy. And this is the magnet analogy, y'all. Right now, you might feel like certain things have magnetic power over you. Temptation has power over you, but here's the secret. You're the magnet. You're not the thing you're attracted to. You're the magnet. You're being magnetized to, not the actual thing that's coming to you. You're generating the magnetic field through your beliefs. When you change what you believe about yourself and about what you need, you change your entire magnetic field. Suddenly, healthy choices become attractive and unhealthy choices lose their pull, y'all. All right, so let's get into some practical ways that you can apply this, y'all. We're going to use the belief archaeology method. What is that, you may ask? Thank you for asking. I'm going to let you know. When temptation hits, what we got to do? We got to dig a little bit deeper. We got to ask ourselves questions more. Don't be afraid to ask yourself questions. So if temptation hits, what you want to do? I want to be like, what do I believe this will do for me? Keep asking the questions. Why is it that important? Until you get to the root of that belief. So that's the belief archaeology method. Another method you could try is evidence collection method. And y'all know y'all could be really good about collecting some evidence on people. But do that with yourself. All right. Yeah, we good now. So start collecting evidence for the belief you want to have instead of the belief you currently have. If you want to believe I am worthy of love just as I am, start noticing every small example and sign that supports that belief. I am worthy of love because I brush my teeth. because I wash my clothes, because I take care of my hair. Whatever thing that you need to grab onto that's small to start supporting and reinforcing that belief of worthiness, of love, just as you are. And then you got some people that can do visualization. They can visualize in the future. This is another thing you can attempt to apply. Before you act on temptation, visualize your future self, the person you want to become, that has already overcome this pattern, this temptation. What would that version of you choose? How would they think about this situation? How would they feel? How would they operate? And for me, the visualization thing, that technique, I hear that it works for people. Me personally, visualization been a little tricky for me. I'm not gonna say it does or doesn't work, but for me personally, it's been a little tricky. But that's definitely something I have heard people say works for them, to visualize things and visualize the person they want to become, and then they start becoming that person. All right, now let's talk about the spiritual alchemy of desire transformation. Now we're getting into the deep magic side of things, y'all. Okay, we're gonna talk about the psychology. We're gonna talk about the science. We're gonna talk about the magic. We're gonna talk about it all, because all of it gives you many different perspectives of the same thing. And this is where the science meets the spirit, where psychology meets ancient wisdom. Okay? In the alchemic tradition, there's a process called transmutation, taking base metals and turning them into gold. That's exactly what we're doing with temptation. We're not trying to destroy desire itself. We're trying to transmute it into something higher. The Sufist mystics understood this deeply. Okay? They taught that every human desire is actually misdirected longing for the divine. Okay? When you're tempted by something, what's happening? You're actually experiencing a spiritual hunger, but you're trying to feed it with a material food. We live in a material world. Okay, Ruma wrote, you're not just the drop in the ocean itself, but the entire ocean is each drop. Okay? What he's saying there is that everything you're seeking outside of yourself, and this was also in the movie Soul, if y'all go look that up. It's another Disney movie. Powerful message. But everything you're seeking outside of yourself, love, peace, joy, fulfillment, is already within you. Temptation happens when you forget this truth in any given moment and start looking for the ocean in tiny drops. In the Christian tradition, St. Augustine said, you have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. That means every temptation is your soul being restless, seeking that divine connection, but looking in all the wrong places. The Hindu concept of Maya teaches us that the material world in the first place is an illusion, and it distracts us from our own true nature. But Maya itself isn't evil, it's a teacher. Each temptation is Maya. It's a teacher, an example of your soul being restless. And when you're restless, what you do, you're seeking some type of connection. You're seeking that divine connection. But you could be looking in all the wrong places. Okay? So here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to fight temptation, y'all. You just have to remember who you really are. And at the core of all my teachings, that's the line you might hear the most. You just have to remember who you really are in the first place. You are not a person who struggles with temptation. You are divine, conscious, temporarily wearing this human meat suit. You are a divine consciousness that don't need nothing from the outside world to be complete. That don't mean you don't need support because we live on a physical earth. That just means nothing in itself as one thing completes you. You are already complete. When you really get this, Temptation actually becomes a gift because it's a signal, y'all, showing you where you're still forgetting your true nature. Instead of something to resist, it becomes something to transform. And anything that you have to transform is actually an exciting journey. That's the point of life, transformation. So this is what I need y'all to understand, my fellow explorers of the vibrant mind. You ain't weak. You never were weak. What you've been calling temptation in the first place is just old programming in the back of your mind, your subconscious mind. And now, after you listen to this, you know how to update that software. Okay? Every time you feel that magnetic pull towards something, you ain't good. If it's saying you ain't good, you ain't worthy, or any other variation of something that's not good for you, just simply remember, that's not an external force creating this pull. Okay? That's your own beliefs creating that attraction. And since you created those beliefs, you have the power to change them, y'all. Your job this week is to become a belief detective when it comes to this temptation. Whatever, if you're really dealing with temptation and you're feeling weak to it, just start becoming more of a detective. Start paying attention to what you tell yourself you need. Start questioning those stories. Start asking, hold on, wait. What do I really believe about myself? And what do I need to be happy? And temptation is an opportunity to find out those answers. Now remember, you already have everything you need inside of you in the first place. You're not lacking anything. You're not broken. You're just temporarily confused about where your good comes from. And your behaviors are showing it. And that's why we're here. I want you to try something right now. Just take a moment. Think about your biggest temptation you're dealing with. Okay? Now, instead of seeing it as something trying to drag you down or make your heart pump in anxiety, see it as your soul trying to guide you towards something you really need. You just have to face it and have the courage that you're already on the other side of that thing. What is the temptation really pointing you towards, really? What deeper hunger is that temptation trying to feel? What are you trying to connect with? Now, if this message spoke to your spirit or resonated with you on any level, y'all, to help me grow and get this message out to many more people like yourself, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and then drop a comment telling me about a time when you transform your temptation into wisdom, y'all. Let's build this community of fellow explorers of the vibrant mind, y'all, who understand that we are more powerful than any external force. And until next time, keep exploring the vibrant mind of yours. And remember, you already have everything you need. You just got to remember how to access it in the first place. Peace, love, and divine remembrance, y'all. Have a great night.